we're at that tipping point. We can either go one way or another, and I would like to see us tip to the other way and make a difference. I won't be around to see a lot of these differences, and that's okay. I want to be able to say that in that dash that I had between my birth and my death, that there was some kind of impact that was positive.
A Parent Wins, an adventure of a lifetime. A global expedition dedicated to collecting stories of environmental and cultural preservation while conducting marine research aboard sailing vessel Resilience.
We were talking with other folks about harmony.
Yes.
And, what can we do? How can we live? What is balance? What does that look like?
Right. It's this whole region now. It's like things are changing, and we are in such a great place. The opportunity to really protect more land and to start really being responsible stewards, yes, and not just like all driven by profit and money and short-term, yeah.
Yeah, short-term gains.
Yeah. So the area that our tribe exists in now, where we have our tribal grounds, that area, it's on the western, say northwestern side of Horry County, and just adjacent to that, you have the Little Petey River that borders along Horry and Marion County. So Marion County, I say, is now on the chopping block for, heightened development. You see properties just being grabbed up and grabbed up by large chunks of land, because it's the same kind of thing. Get your large tract of land and then develop and sell the smaller tracts. The people that benefit, it says like housing is an important issue, but the way that it's done is so antiquated. How much is enough, and where do we draw that line so we have the respect for nature and the species and the habitat, and then understanding it's like the elusive nature of power and wealth. It's just not, yeah. And I think the structure of community, especially when you look at indigenous, as a way socially that communities were structured, it was for the benefit of all. And in our culture, it's for the 7 generations yet unborn. So now my son, it's for the 7 generations yet unborn. You're always going forward to thinking about what you do and the imprint you have on this planet and the people around you. How is that going to impact the generations that aren't here yet? As more work is being done to look at these past things, and that's another reason why lands need to be protected as well, because once that impervious surface, once housing is put up, once the strip mall or whatever else is being established, you now no longer have that piece of history that may be right there. That may be very significant. And culturally, it's an impact. Environmentally, it's an impact. And so I've been accused of being anti-development. It's not about that. Obviously things are going to happen, more population, you have to have these things, but how can you do it responsibly? And then also the big part is respecting the other relatives that live here. We've seen them as we've been driving through here. Right. And they have a right to space as well as we do.
There's a lot of talk in an economy changing to be, a green economy or
right.
Yeah, circular economics or whatever it might be. think there are lessons there, or is that not a thing?
No, I absolutely think that history, when it's broken down and it's not his story, and it's actually the effort to like research and understand what is almost hidden within history. He who holds the quill holds the power to change the future and determine the future. And so thinking about that Native people didn't write things, but provided oral histories. So some of that, when I think about that piece of our culture that didn't transfer over, that's the part for me. It's still a little bit of a grieving process. I go through those stages of grief, which is, it's not denial. I recognize that we have had cultural loss in many ways, and loss is that there are some things that we will probably never recover because the gap there is so extensive. But so there's that part. But then I go into being angry and resentful because that wasn't something that was done by choice. It wasn't like, oh, we just decided to not. There were certain things and constructs, again, that were put in place to make that come about. There were written laws, Indian Offenses Act. That didn't get turned over until the 1970s. So it was implemented for over 100 years, like 130 years, around 130 years.
And what was that?
It was used to basically stop cultural practices.
Right.
Yeah. So you could even be making things that would be beneficial for tribe, but they could label it as being some kind of a spiritual practice or attributed to spiritual practice. So then it would be an offense, and then you could end up in jail and fined, and obviously another means to confiscate property. So these things that was the response to things that were happening in Indian country, as there were efforts to stop land loss and protect cultural sites and do, over the course of time, that's all what it's been about is not being forced off of land that you're living on. Through this course of time, there are a lot of things that actually not only helped us to be resilient, but made it inevitable that we would, because even through that, you look at like intercultural connection, and I always say this: the Gullah Geechee and the indigenous people, especially in this region, there's so much that they had to, in order to survive, to merge together culturally in many ways in order to be able to survive that. We see history, we should learn from it, try to do better and be more responsible, think about the future. So that's my call to action: responsible. We've got tools now, and we've got people that have knowledge that can help build a better society, build a better community, and have these places that are accessible and beneficial, not just for us right now, but for the generations. That's what this place is, and that's part of the reason why I wanted you guys to come here. Belle Baruch saw that. She had the vision, the foresight to see. By doing what I'm doing, it wasn't for her. I mean, yeah, she's still got the namesake.
Right.
But it was for future, for generations. And that part really, just because when I think about what she was a privileged white woman, but she got it. And she really understood that. So there are advocates that agree and understand the necessity and the importance of doing this work. And that is what I'm like, okay, let's roll up our sleeves and let's figure this out and make it happen.
If you want to access more content, consider joining our community on Patreon. You can find details in the video description. Thank you so much for watching.